Good afternoon. Welcome back to Real People. Today we are here with Liz German, who is the CEO of YWCA McLean County. Liz, thank you for taking some time to talk.
Sure, always good to talk with you.
So, how did you come to social impact work? What did you grow up in a household where it was important through religion or service or something? But how have you dedicated your life to this work?
Whenever I talk about this, it always just kind of makes me talk about my parents because really, I like to say my parents talked to me like I was an adult from the time that I was a small child. They were both teachers, and I think their way of instructing me on how the world worked was just very thorough because, I remember, for example, I remember sitting in a parking lot of a car dealership and my parents' car was being worked on and we were listening to the radio and it was something about the Gulf War and the Middle East and the sides and I was trying to get my mom to explain what was going on. Why weren't they getting along? Where did that come from? And I remember her spending a lot of time talking with me about that and like how that came to be and what were the reasons. And so I just really think that we talked about those things as a family. Um, and I think because I was aware of everything going on in the world, and I'm kind of a very sensitive person, it felt very natural that I should be doing something to fix this. I should be somehow in my role, whatever that may be, whether, at one point I thought I was going to be a teacher. At another point, I thought I would be in politics. I quickly realized politics was not the realm for me. But yeah, I just thought at some point I have to do something about this. There's just so much that needs to be dealt with and talked about and addressed. And I can't imagine going to a job every day where that wasn't at least some part of it, of my role. So.
And what was the path to YWCA in McLean County?
Actually through a friend. So my degree is in politics and government and economics, but about halfway through, through some, experiences, I started to realize that I didn't think politics was going to be my thing, and I wasn't sure about law school, and I was going to switch to education. But because I was so far in, it was going to be like starting over, and I said, okay, I'll just do it afterwards. I'll just do it later. So I graduated with my degree, and I was selling insurance and for a job, and I had a friend who worked here in the childcare, and so I took a part-time job and I was the before and after school site coordinator at Hayworth Elementary. And I had a fantastic time. It was my part of the week where I felt like I was doing something and helping the world and making a difference. And so after about a year and a half, there was a full-time childcare director role. So I got that role, and then I've had like 6 or 7 positions at YW, and I did go back and get my teaching certificate. And at one point I thought I was going to go teach. And then, the next job opened up and I was like, no, I think I want to do this. No, I think I'll stay for this. And so here I am.
That's great that the organization recognized your commitment and capability and promoted you up through those roles.
Yeah, I think that nonprofits really give people, compared to maybe a corporate environment, a lot of, if you want responsibility, you will get it quickly with nonprofits. If you're willing to do the work will be
Careful
good.
what you wish for.
Yeah, probably the same with, startups and small businesses, because there is never those extra layers of staff where somebody is just a data entry person, or they're just this, you always have all these other duties as assigned. And so I am a person that doesn't like to be bored, and I don't always have patience might not be my strong suit. I'm a person that just wants to kind of dive into things sometimes. So I think that that got rewarded.
Maybe that's why we connected when we got involved with Labyrinth Made Goods, which is what it's now called. But I think Jim and I told the group, it's like, we are doers. And if you don't want to do, we are not the right people. So, and I think there was a group of cheers that came up from around the room. So,
yeah. And it's hard, because especially with limited resources, you always want to make sure you're doing the best with those resources. And especially with all the challenges we've had with the economy and the budget and obviously COVID, it's like you always want to think through everything and be prepared for everything. But it's also like you sometimes just have to dive in. You don't always have all the answers. We went through that with the special needs program. We met about it and talked about it and planned and budgeted and tried to be as prepared as possible. And what happened was we talked for a couple of years and we were at that point of, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep talking about it? Or are we just going to do it? And there were still so many unknowns. And, you know, some of the group was like, well, we don't want to put the YW in a bad place. What if financially it impacts you? And it's like, at this point, we are all well-educated people who are trying to do the best. Let's just jump. Let's just see what happens. And it's worked out because we have really dedicated, smart people, and we write grants and we have conversations about what it means, and it's sustained itself, you know. And that's now, I think that was 16. So yeah, 5 years later, we're still able to do it. So I do think sometimes you have to be willing to just jump a little bit, and it can be scary.
Take a risk, absolutely.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night as the CEO of a nonprofit?
So many things, really. You know, I think I just feel a very strong sense of loyalty to YW, loyalty to the staff, loyalty to the community. And by loyalty, I guess I mean doing the best I can with what I have. And, you know, we always could use more financial resources. That's never going to go away. So we know that going in, right? You know, I think the thing that I've in the last couple of years really thought most about is how do we take what is so impactful and important to so many of us meaning the employees and the donors and supporters we have, and really kind of cross that bridge to the people that are maybe a little more encapsulated in a corporate environment or in a suburban environment, and they're not interacting with, say, our services or the things that we're doing. Because to truly ever be able to impact the whole community, everybody has to understand what we do, know what we do, see the importance in what we do. And to give you an idea, we still get 1 or 2 phone calls every couple months about our swimming lessons, which we don't have a pool anymore, and that closed in 2011. So it's just that enormity, I think, of there's so much potential and there's so much need, and wanting to share that mission and the services and some of the things that we do that are so life-changing, not only for our clients, but they could be life-changing for our community, because as we lift people up, the whole community gets better. And so I think a lot about how do I get to those people? How do I get to those people who I don't interact with and we're not connected? And so I think that is the power of people, and that's the power of one person leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. I've been really grateful in the last couple of years, I think, that between the Me Too movement, between COVID, and between some of the things, unfortunately, that have been in the news around policing and racial justice, that people do seem to all of a sudden be willing to have these conversations and be willing to entertain ideas around the mission. And one of my biggest fears is that that goes away when things kind of return to a normal state, whatever normal looks like. And by that, I mean for white people, because obviously for people of color, returning to a normal state does not relieve them of that anxiety. But I don't know, there's just kind of the enormity of the position, I guess. If I had to summarize it, is what keeps me up at night, because, you know, I am a person that is very dedicated to what I do. I'm single, I don't have kids, maybe one day I will, but I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I'm always trying to think, how could I do it better? And how could I do it right? And sometimes with this role, there isn't always a right. There's this is an option and this is an option, and there are pros and cons to each option. So, you know, I'm still learning. I'm relatively new to this role, so it's a process.
You know, one of the things that I've had to kind of grapple a little bit with in our work with Labyrinth Made Goods and the apprentices and people in the program is when somebody, you know, you can create an opportunity but then somebody has to want to seize that opportunity. And, losing Nita was really hard
Mhm.
because she had really gotten her life turned around and proud of her sobriety and showing people her coin. And she was so engaged in the program and enthusiastic and made us all laugh and cry. And when we would go to ISU for a packaging presentation and she would speak, just you would get chills, and she would create 12 or 15 student ambassadors just by listening to the importance of the program and what it's meant to her. So how do you, since you're in a position on so many different levels of impacting people's lives, whether it's incarceration or abuse or rape or sheltering or lack of food, just you're tackling so many critical issues. How do you process when it's just seems impossible to be successful with somebody? You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, I think I think your question really speaks to how complex it is, because I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in getting the whole community involved, is because all of the issues that we focus on, we could just talk about sexual assault, or we could just talk about incarceration, but there's overlap there, and there's overlap in raising kids and child abuse, and it's all part of this world. Nobody lives in a vacuum where only one thing touches them, and then that is their whole experience. And so getting people to see the interconnectedness of how all of these things work together and impact one another, I think somebody like Nita did a really good job of sharing her story in a way that people understood that, and people could see, like, this isn't about one thing or one piece. To help Nita, I need to look at everything. I need to, it's almost like stepping back and realizing that we're all kind of cogs in this big wheel. And she did a really good job of connecting with people. And so her issues
Sure
and
did.
everything she had, yeah, everything she went through, you then felt that, and then you saw it differently. It wasn't like a subject of, okay, well, yeah, okay, incarceration's a problem, or yeah, trauma is an issue we should be talking about. It was just different because you connected with her.
The human side of all of it. This,
Yeah.
this actually aren't just academic problems. These are people's lives.
Right, right. And a lot of time when we look at grants or funding, a lot of times we measure that by like the numbers. So for example, a federal grant, we're trying to change hundreds of people's lives. And while that obviously is a great goal and we want to do that, you look at Nita and you see how happy she was and how her life was changed. And yet that's worth all the money in the world, and that's one person. And so I think if we thought of it as people instead of numbers, I mean, because while it's really hard, there are so many success stories like Nita. There are so many moments within all of our programs where somebody accomplishes a new skill, or a child is able to express themselves, or a parent's able to advocate for a child, or a survivor is able to live independently and deal with going back into her life. I mean, there are so many like great moments, but yet we still have these big problems in the world. And I think it is kind of a challenge for all staff to kind of go between. You have to have some wins, you have to celebrate those successes, because otherwise the world is pretty overwhelming. The issues are pretty powerful. So I think it's a little bit of living in the day to day, but also thinking about the big picture. um, because I know I got a lot of joy out of watching Nita and interacting with her, and I was glad that we have the program we had to help her. But I also know that's not enough. That we need everybody to feel how Nita felt.
Right.
So
Before our conversation, I had conversations with Candace and Shay and Hannah and Anne, and it's so incredible to see in months' time, in some cases I think Shay was involved from the very beginning. The just enormous growth and confidence and sense of dignity and the voices that they've always had, but for whatever reason were timid or not encouraged to share. And just to hearing these women own kind of their lives and talk about an art gallery that Shay wants to open in the future or a business that Candace wants to do. I mean, it's pretty exciting and rewarding as just, kind of an outsider helping in some of these programs. But do you stop enough and realize what incredible work you're doing? I mean, do you stop to not thank yourself, but do you stop to absorb that you are truly changing people's lives with the work you do?
I don't know. I think the opportunities like we had a few weeks ago when we met with some people around the business and we got to hear from Shay and Hannah, those moments allow me to kind of stop and think about it. And a couple times I teared up when Shay and Hannah were talking because what they were talking about, I had actually witnessed in them. So it was like, it was double validation. I heard it and I've seen it. So in those moments or in moments where I'm talking about our programs or times like this, I do think about that stuff. But I will say, I think because of the nature of the work, a lot of us are just kind of going a lot. And so it is really important to stop and realize and just breathe and be like, okay, yeah, that's working.
It's incredible. I mean,
yeah.
We're doing our mission. We are living our mission. We're achieving our mission. It's never going to be over, but it just strikes me. And I've heard Ann in phone calls with some of your counterparts in the organization, and she can connect so deeply with people because she's talking about the importance of these programs. Why do I know that? I am from this program. This program helped me turn my life around from the clothes on my back, getting out of jail to where I am today. And I see in some of your counterparts' eyes, it's sort of like one, emotional to hear, but two, it's just kind of like this recognition that, yeah, this is important work.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I'm trying to do, and be a little more intentional about, I guess, is taking that time because I had a conversation with some of the board members and even for them, we have a board meeting monthly and their job is to look at the overall management and the financial aspects, and so we have to talk through a lot of things and that takes time. And what can easily get lost is sometimes that personal touch or that personal piece. And so we've made it a point to focus on something that is program related in a confidential way at the top of every board meeting, just to kind of like set the stage of, okay, why are we all actually here? We only care about the financial management and the oversight because we care about the program. I mean, without the program, you're just managing something to manage it, right? So last month I shared with them an email that we had received from a Unit 5 teacher because we had an educator in one of the schools talking about things around Aaron's Law and prevention education to prevent child abuse and sexual assault. And, I know that they're out there every day doing that. And I know how important that is. But just having that teacher reach out and say, hey, I just wanted you to know they did a great job and the kids were so comfortable and they asked all the right questions and it's working. It's like, okay, that is so great to hear. I want everybody to hear that, So I do think, you almost have to schedule that time or be really intentional, or you can just get lost in the busyness.
But it's important, that validation and that connection to it.
It is.
So what's the next chapter, or what are the next chapters in your life? Are you doing exactly what you want to be doing? Do you have some dreams kicking around in the back of your mind that you've just put to the rear because you love currently what you're doing?
Yes and no, I guess. I mean, I think one of the great things about YW is that it's kind of ever changing and ever evolving and ever growing. So it never feels, you don't ever really become complacent or, bored or, you know, if for some reason what we were doing, I wasn't connected to, well, one, that I don't see that happening, but if it was, I mean, there are more things we could do in this community. There are more programs we could build and more things that we could do. So, I think that we still have a lot to accomplish, and we're actually looking at the former pool space that I mentioned before. We are in the process of using that for a different type of programming around children and access to STEM activities. And so we have a lot of things coming up on the horizon around that, which is really exciting for me. And especially with my education background, that's really near and dear to my heart. I think, if in 20 years, if I wasn't here, I don't know, maybe I would be teaching kindergarten somewhere or something. I mean, I wouldn't put it past me, because I do, I think at heart, I'm a teacher somewhere. Because I do get a lot of personal joy and satisfaction from just interacting with kids. I'm a Big Brothers Big Sisters mentor, and I have a little sister. And during rough times, when I call her and have conversations with her, it's like everything else just seems so simple and so easy. Even recently, I was talking to her about her birthday, and just the amount of excitement and sheer joy about just like, we're going to go get dinner and she's going to have a present. And, there is something about that just, I can't tell you how much joy that brings me. So
How old is she?
She's going to be 9
Nice.
Friday. So I've been with her since she was 6. And so it's been so fun to watch her kind of grow up. And I mean, I could see me being with YWCA forever. But regardless, I'll always be involved in the community. I think that I would just be very unhappy if I wasn't involved in some way. But a lot of my dreams are tied to YW's dreams, because I just think that we have such a unique space and we serve a unique mission. And so we have a role in this community to fill, and we really haven't reached the full potential of that yet. I think we can do more.
And in kind of wrapping up here, what do you want people to know about YWCA and the mission?
I would say to people that everybody has a role in our mission. Sometimes, unfortunately, eliminating racism seems controversial, or it seems maybe like we're targeting a specific group of people, but really every single person on this earth has a role to play in creating a more equitable society. And so what I would love is if people just were open to the conversation and would be willing to become involved. The pandemic has really allowed us to do a lot of things virtually. And I think it's brought some new faces in, but I would love to see those numbers grow. I would love to see people truly do like what you do, which is really know your community and be involved in it. Because if every single person was doing that, I think we would be amazed. When I look at our community, a lot of times it's the same 10-15% of people who are volunteering at every agency or out there advocating for everything. And that's wonderful and great, but I just think how amazing it could be if it was 100% or even 50%. I mean, we would have a different world, a different Bloomington Normal. So I just want people to know they can get involved. I mean, I don't want people to be afraid or turned off or scared of what they don't know when it comes to talking about racism or talking about different forms of oppression. We're kind people. We will be glad to educate and advocate in a kind way, but also hold people accountable. I mean, I think everybody wants that. I think everybody wants a better society. I know we don't all agree on how to get there, but I think we make it harder than it has to be. sometimes.
We should be able to have agreement on the goals, maybe the paths we can't agree on, but
Mhm.
everything that YWCA stands for and the mission should not be controversial.
Right, right.
How we get there, maybe we have different opinions, but I also think it's important for people to understand it's not a women's organization only. I've always felt like LGBTQ community can't win all the rights and acceptance that we need just within our own community. And racial equality can't be fully gained without white people
Mhm.
stepping up and doing their share. And women's equality takes men saying, absolutely, this is critical. So there is, I think your message of coming together as community is so important because we can't make the progress we have to make isolated in our own camps or our own communities. We have to come together. So
Exactly.
it has
Yeah,
been,
and that full piece of our mission that sometimes we don't say is promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. And so that has a lot of avenues. That's not just women. It's not just people of color. It's not just LGBTQ plus. It's people with disabilities. It's people who are aging. And that's everybody. So it really is, yeah, it really is imperative that we all come together. It takes all of us and all of our unique perspectives to really be able to make changes.
absolutely. Well, Jim and I have loved and continue to love being involved with YWCA McLean County, specifically the Labyrinth Made Goods project. It is so inspirational to see the progress that apprentices and participants make and to share our years of gray hair or no hair and knowledge and to just come together and create something. And I think it's really, we get so much from it, and being able to work with you and the rest of your leadership team is really an honor.
Well, thank you. And I truly mean it when I say we would not be doing what we're doing without the community support that we have right now, which is you and Jim and that whole team. And I mean, you can't really put a price on the knowledge and confidence you've been able to bring to us to be able to feel like, okay, we can make this step and we can kind of tackle new territory. It's been invaluable. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for having a conversation today.
Of course, anytime.